Tuesday, May 26th, and the adventure continues. Before I go on, I need to make a correction. A couple of times I've reinvented history here, and fortunately, people are actually watching these and have corrected me. So I want to give credit where credit's due on the Linda Ronstadt, Aaron Neville song. I credited Bob Mann with the guitar solo on that, but it was Mike Landau who played the guitar solo. Mike is like one of the most unbelievably great guitar players in the world. I was fortunate enough to do lots of projects in LA with both Landau and Lukather together, and man, that is a trip, to say the least, to be in a room with those two geniuses. But I do a lot of work with Bob Mann over the years too, and Bob was involved in a number of projects. So sometimes when I'm thinking in hindsight, I find myself sitting in a room on one session, but I was actually in another room on another session. It gets confusing and especially somebody turned me on to a site called Discog, and I just started checking that out, and it does have some information in it that I think is credible. So I'm double checking with that, and I was all set to do, I was picking between two songs for today, and once again was completely insomniacked out last night, could not sleep, and I'm sitting there just dicking around on YouTube half the night away, and came across a song that I thought, I want to do this. I have not heard this song since we recorded it, and so I'm going to do that, and then tomorrow I'll go on to one of the other ones I was thinking about. But this one, there is a ton of credits on this album, and I really want to give just due to it because all these people were absolutely just amazing people here. Now, the album that this is coming from is James Taylor's In the Pocket. I'm going to take my glasses off. I can't see up close. But I'm going to read through the credits because these people this is really the bread and butter of the Los Angeles recording scene on one session. They aren't all on the track that I'm going to play to today, but they were all integral parts of the entire album. So here I go. This is going to take a few seconds here to do. Accordion was Dr. Clarence McDonald. MacD toured with James for this album, and he's a fabulous, fabulous keyboard player. But the accordion was Clarence McDonald and Nick DeCaro, who did, his brother Frank was one of the major contractors in Los Angeles, and Nick did a lot of arranging. Acoustic guitar was Danny Korchmar, Cooch, and James Taylor. The horns were arranged by James on it, and the strings were arranged by Nick DeCaro. Not bad background vocals on some of these things. We have Carly Simon and James singing background. Banjo was Herb Peterson. Herb I've worked with for years. He was in Country Gazette. He's done so many things. He was involved in a lot of the TV stuff we did with Mike Post, and he's a gifted artist on his own, and he and Chris Hillman have a group together. Bass is some guy, I don't know, Lee, I don't know how you pronounce that last name, Skylar or something like that. And then there's one track on here that the brilliant Willie Weeks played bass on. The bells and vibes on the thing were Victor Feldman, who's one of the great, great percussionist, keyboard player, jazz musicians. The chimes were Milt Holland. I mean, these guys, this is as deep as it gets. The cymbalum was Kenny Watson. It was co-produced, the album was co-produced by Lenny Waronker and Russ Titleman. I've worked with those guys for years, and they're really great to work with, and they really know how to put a team together. Dobro on here is David Lindley. David, I've known since '68. He's a genius at everything he touches. He's even a genius when he touches himself, but that's an entire different discussion. Drums on one of the tracks was Jim Keltner, and on all the other tracks was Russ Kunkel. Electric guitars, Danny Korchmar, of course, Cooch. and Waddy Wachtel, of course. And James actually played some electric guitar on this. It was engineered and mastered and mixed by Lee Hirschberg, who was the Lee I was trying to figure out the other day when we had our pile of Lees. James played harmonica on a track, and Stevie Wonder played harmonica on another track. All the more background vocals were James's brother Alex Taylor, Art Garfunkel, Bonnie Raitt, Carly Simon, David Crosby, and Graham Nash, and Valerie Carter. Not a bad background vocal section. The harp was Gail Levant. Now, Gail's been one of the major harpists in Los Angeles for decades. She's on every movie soundtrack there is. She's on the Academy Awards, everything. Gail is just a remarkable, remarkable musician. The horns were Ernie Watts, George Bohannon, Michael Brecker, Oscar Brashear, and Steve Madeo. It does not get better than that horn section, I'll tell you. There was an instrument called a hornigan, and Clarence McDonald played that. I've never even really been familiar with that one. But the main keyboards on the thing were Clarence McDonald and Craig Durgee. So the section was all represented on these projects because we were James's band. Danny Korchmar played mandolin. Dave Grisman played mandocello. Victor Feldman played marimba, chimes, and cymbals. Organ was all Clarence McDonald. Percussion was Russ Kunkel and Victor Feldman. The acoustic piano was Clarence McDonald. Shakers and congas was the great Bobby Hall. She's a fabulous percussionist. Clarence McDonald played synthesizer. Peter Asher and Russ Titleman played tambourine. Bobby Hall played triangle. Red Callender played tuba. Red Callender was one of my main influences when I started as a string bass player. He's a great jazz player. And almost all the songs were written by James. So there's a few covers, and the one I'm going to do for you today is a cover. But that's the credits to everybody. I believe on that album, In the Pocket, when you see that the actual jacket and you open it up, there's a full layout picture, and it's got everybody involved in the album in this picture. It's a great documentary picture of a period of time in the Los Angeles studio scene. I miss that. I miss albums. Beyond the sonics of an album, I so miss album artwork. There were so many gifted album designers, and I used to find myself going, like, there were Tower Records, and before that in Los Angeles, Wallach's Music City, and indie music stores where you'd go through, and there was just bin after bin of albums in every genre, and you just sit there and just perusing and going through these things. And so many times I bought albums just because I thought it was a cool cover. I had no idea what the music was going to be in it or anything like that, but the artwork was so brilliant. But to be able to sit and enjoy a record and read the credits while it's going on. A lot of albums, I know our first Section album came with an incredible poster in it that was done by Rick Griffin, who was like one of the main artists for Surfer magazine, came up with Murph the Surfer. It's a genius cover. And Gary Burden did the album design, and Rick did the poster. But there's so many things about that whole process, and then having an album, and it almost was like a Japanese tea ceremony, when you would, hold on, God, every time you breathe on this stupid computer, it goes to another song, and I don't want it to do that, so I just, oh God, it's just such a pain in the ass. I'm just going to wait to play it there. Sorry. This is really low tech. I'm in this little world here. But as I was saying, though, it was almost like a Japanese tea ceremony. This thing of unpacking your album and you take it out and you clean the needle and you set it on the turntable, the album, and just sit back and dig it. And the thing I loved was we were always so engaged in so many of the album projects that we would see them through to mastering. And it was fun just to sit there and listening. You've put together your order for the album, how you wanted the A side to end and how you wanted the B side to begin. It was a deep commitment. It wasn't just hitting random and putting together your own playlist. I mean, these albums were done with intention of telling a story from top to bottom. And we would sit there and we would hear that first track end, and we'd just go, listen to it fade out, and then just go. That's where we wanted the second one to start, because there were times you wanted more space between tracks. Some you wanted to butt right up emotionally, you wanted this thing just to keep moving, and other ones you wanted to have a little time to settle at the end of a track before the next track began. So, not to sound old farty, because, technology and life moves on, but there's something about the physical beauty of an album in your hands. That's really something. But the song that I found last night that I really love is from In the Pocket, and it's a Bobby Womack tune that James covered called Woman's Gotta Have It. It's just got a sweet groove on the thing. And the thing that I love about it is, Waddy's playing on it with us. And Waddy and I, the first album we did together was a Bobby Womack album, and that's how Waddy and I met. So once again, man, this whole thing just turns into this big kind of puree of life. So I'm going to play Woman's Gotta Have It now, and hopefully get through this. I'm going to angle this down just skosh there. And I recorded the song on this bass, so it's got a certain validity to it here. Let me crank up here. It's Frankenstein bass, and Little natural fade. We are out of there. Woman's Gotta Have It, man. I love that pocket on that thing. I mean, I really owe it to Bobby Womack and his arrangement on it, but it is sure fun to play that. Yeah, just it's skanky, man. The string arrangement on the thing is just beautiful, lush and rich, and the band and McD and everybody. It was a great period with James. We did In the Pocket and Gorilla. It was fun. We did that album at Amigo Studios in North Hollywood and did a lot of projects we were in one room doing that. Van Halen was in the next room working. And then I walked by the little mix room of the studio and I heard the most glorious music coming out of there. And anytime I ever see a sign in the studio that says, "Do not enter," bam, I'm in the door. So I stuck my head in, and the guy who was mixing in there said, "Yeah, come on in." And I sat down and listened. And it was a track that Rod Stewart had commissioned. And it was an old Irish folk song that he absolutely loved growing up. And what they had done was they hired a piper to play this song, bagpipes. And then they overdubbed him about 100 times on this thing. So it was like sitting in these lush fields of Ireland or Scotland, maybe. Might have been a Scottish one. I'm not sure. This was many, many years ago. But you close your eyes and you just saw these lush hills and then this army of pipers coming over. They had that track on. Then they had a guy who played calfskin drums on it, and they overdubbed him about 100 times too. So the magnitude of this track was amazing. And then they had gone back to Chicago, and there's a fabulous church there with this amazing pipe organ. And they brought in the pipe organ with the 32-foot pipes. And I'm sitting there listening, and as he's mixing this thing, I just was creaming. I was just going, this is just unbelievably one of the most emotional things I've ever heard. And I said, "What's his plans with it?" And he goes, "It's just for him. He just loves this and wants to have this in his home to play." And I thought, God, good for you, Rod. I've done a lot of work with Rod over the years. I started with him on Atlantic Crossing and did a bunch of albums. And a few years ago, we did an album that was all tribute to songs of the 80s. And, and then I worked on some of his American Songbook stuff too. I love Rod, man. He's such a great hang, and such a fun musician and character to be around. He's a piece of work. But I really enjoyed doing these albums at Amigo. There was always so much activity over there, and the place had a lot of vitality and really cool projects. So that was it for today in terms of music. That's the problem for me is I get a game plan going here. I'll do that song, and the next thing I know, it's like walking my dogs. They're walking. They're so dedicated to that walk straight ahead, and then boom, there's like a poop on the side on the lawn, man. Bam, they're over there. Who's been here? Let's check it out. And this isn't poop, but not to equate the two, but the distraction is about the same, where I think I know what I want to do, and then I find something else that's really fun. I was trying to rethink how Roseanne went, and I'll get to it all. I've got some more Toto songs to do. I'm going to dig up some Richard Marx. That's kind of the blessing for me, is having had the career I've had. There's a lot of stuff to choose from. It's a matter of, first off, finding it. And that's where I have to dig deep just to find some of these tracks that have been lost to to history, or trying to have some stuff that's got some relevance to what we're all hanging out here for. But I'll try to cover as many things. I was really pleased, like when the response to Diana Ross was really good. And you're wondering, well, is everybody, want to hear that? I've got a whole bunch of different things like that. And I'll try to just keep a kind of a wide spectrum and variety of things. Still have to finish up Cobham, So look have a really good day, good week. We're hitting a heat wave here in Los Angeles, so I'm not sure how much I'm going to accomplish outside today. And like 2 years ago, our band, The Immediate Family, played at a club called Bogies, north of Los Angeles, up in Westlake Village. And a gentleman came up to me afterwards, who was a school teacher at Agoura High School, and he asked me if I would be willing to come back up and speak to a music class with them. And a general education class. And I said, no, absolutely, I'd be happy to. And then I get back to the school, like a couple of weeks later, I come up there and I'm sitting and I look at this whole room full of kids that look like they're babies. I'm an old dude, and I'm looking and thinking, what am I going to say to these kids? Jesus. But we kind of get started. He does an introduction, and immediately one kid raises his hand. Like, yeah, man. And he looks like he's like 15 years old. And I go, yeah, love questions. What can I do? And he looks at me, he goes, you played on Stratus? I almost fell off my chair. Now, this kid, now, how do you know Stratus? And it turns out that a bunch of these kids in there were real musos, and they really knew stuff. So today at 1 o'clock West Coast time, he called me back, and everybody's hunkered down, but he said, would you do a Zoom with my class? So I'm going to hang for a little while and prepare my mind to not know what I'm talking about. And we are going to Zoom, and I'm looking forward to it. It's really fun. I'm just enjoying sharing stories and experiences. This is the time in a career where I'm kind of looking at a calendar and thinking, man, you thought these calendars were endless your whole life. And then suddenly you're looking at them and going, even really healthy, there's a finite amount of dates left on that calendar. So if there was ever a time to start sharing stories and anything that you've done to entertain people, to guide people, to hip them to another time, because I've been fortunate that I've been doing this long enough where I've traveled through so many different areas of how this business works. And it's nice just to get them all out there and share them. And I'd rather do this way. People keep writing, man, you got to do a book. You got to do a book. I've had people telling me you got to do a book for years. And it just doesn't interest me. I've read a bunch of the books that all of my friends have written and stuff, and they're entertaining and all that. But it just, to me, I don't think that way, and I wouldn't want to bring in like a writer to work with me on the book and all that. But to be able to just sit like this and just kind of, have, spew spontaneous, I never practice. I don't rehearse my spontaneity. So I'm so digging this, enjoying it. So I'm definitely giving a shout out now, because to all of the first responders, I'm hearing so many of them interviewed now, and they are so worried about seeing so much irresponsibility taking place. And the last thing they want is, as they're starting to get a handle on some of the cases that are coming in, they don't need a massive surge of cases. So these people are working, harder than any of us have ever dreamed of working in our lives. And I think that we owe them so much. So, take a moment during your day and give them a thought. And if you see anybody out there in scrubs or anything, man, my hat's off to you. You are the best of people. So I will see you tomorrow. Maybe I won't watch YouTube tonight, and I'll clean up some of my bookkeeping here with some more songs this week, and then it's not going to happen, but I'm just saying it just because I'm saying it. So take good care, and I will see you tomorrow.